Jeffrey Tobin,
Okay.
and I don't know, he was on a live, um, what's it called? Live
Broadcast.
stream or yeah, but it was more like a meeting, whatever, a
Okay.
Zoom meeting, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason he thought his camera's off, so he thought he could jerk one off. Okay, but his camera wasn't off. Okay, and so for the New Yorker, his name's Jeffrey Tobin or whatever, and he got in a lot of trouble. He was a regular contributor on CNN, and
Wow.
anyway, I saw him like he's making like this recovery tour. Like he was on like something, and I clicked on the YouTube video, and the guy was like, "I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about the incident." And he was like, "I don't want to talk about the incident really, you know. I'll just say this: um, I did not intend to do that in front of people. I
I
did
did
not know
not
my
end.
camera was on." I'm just wondering, man, like I get it, like, but if you're famous, dude, and you think your camera's off and you just had to jerk one while you're on a Zoom, can you really claim that, like, I, I'm innocent? Like,
Dude,
like, I don't mean to be rude, but anybody, like, everybody jerks it, right? So we
guilty.
can't pretend like no anybody's innocent here, but
I
jerking
just
on
think
Zoom,
I,
that's a different
I just
story.
think a wise man once told me what happens in the bathroom stays in the bathroom. And to me to me like um I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah,
Open camera, guys. Open camera, guys.
I try to have a standing rule at my house, which is like nobody needs to know what you're doing in the bathroom, right?
Just
We
don't
don't need,
ask.
we don't need to ask why it took so long. We don't know to ask what you're up to. No, no questions, like whatever. But I get it. Like maybe he didn't see that green little light, and it was we're recording.
Bro, I'm sorry. Like you can say it was an accident, but every once in a while somebody says something was on the accident after they get millions of dollars taken away from them and they feel bad for that. So I think it's one of those situations that this dude is going to look back at and be like, what I could have been if just controlled my stream. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it reminds me a lot of like the Anthony Weiner situation. Like I was watching him talk about that, and I was like, "There's more to this story." Whenever he said these words exactly, because they're like, "So you were hacked," and he's like, "Yes." They're like, "So is that not a picture of your wiener?" But he didn't say wiener. But he's like, "Here's his words." He said, "I cannot say with certitude that that is not a member of my body." And I figured anytime that somebody says those words, you got to perk up a little bit and you got to be like,
Oh
if
man.
you can't say with certitude that that is not a member of your body, then I can say with certitude that it is a member of your body because I've never seen your body.
Dude,
But
like this shouldn't be a shocker. And ZK, appreciate you, man. But like whether and uh
Mark, Maddox, Carson, what's up, guys?
yeah, you guys, awesome to see you guys. But like, it's true whether it's in politicians, politics, bosses, military. It doesn't matter. There's somebody else there that's flinging their dick around,
Right.
and it's just gonna happen.
It's
So
going to
my
happen.
point with that being is that protect your
It,
nuts, guys.
protect your nuts. Make sure your cameras are off if you're going to do some weird shit. But this actually leads into what we wanted to talk about with Woj.
Woo. I love this, man.
I don't know. Really not Woj, but think about it, dude. Like with Dylan Brooks, he cannot say with certitude that that was not his intention. Anyway,
Yeah, dude. I mean, like when you punch somebody in the dick and you say, "Well, I didn't mean to punch somebody in the dick." Like, how many people are truly going to believe that you didn't mean to punch somebody in the dick? Like,
well, see,
my
that's
point
something I
is
tell my
that
kids all the time. I'm like, if you pretend to punch somebody and then you actually punch them, you can't say it was a pretend punch,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
It's
a
like
punch.
I didn't mean to punch them, but I punched them. Like, come on, dude. My like, okay, I got in a fight when I was in basic training, man. And this guy, I'm pissed off still to this day that I got in a fight with this guy because he was such a fucking awesome dude. His name was Blimes. Um,
Shut up,
and
Limes.
I shut up, Blimes. Anyways, I only remember his name because you only remember guys' names that grab your nuts as hard as he
Oh,
did to my nuts.
grab her nuts
And
and
when we
twist 'em.
got in a fight, I was a pretty big dude and I had him on the floor, popped him one right in the face, and his response was grab me right in the nuts. And guys, it was like a fucking alligator in a death roll. I've never been in so much pain in my life. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, is that I deserved every single nut squeeze. But for 2 weeks, every single time I sat down, all I could think was Blimes. So the rest of my
Master.
life, I will always think of I got blind by blinds, and my nuts, man. I swear to God, his fingers were touching, squeezing my nuts. Like I've
Get all the
never
way
had
through.
pressure
All the
like
way
that.
through this scrotum. So, dude, you sent me or I sent you. I don't know. We ended up watching this
The Woj.
Woj video where he was talking
Finances,
about.
baby.
Okay, there was a very specific phrase that you sent me. And now I remember you sent me it because I was drinking my morning coffee. That's why I was so confused. But you put a quote in here: "The most active trade season ever." Now,
Yes.
this video, I'm gonna post it here on YouTube for everybody to watch in a second here on the chat. But what drove this video was like for him to say the most active trade season ever is the new CBA,
Yes.
right? And the new CBA creates a new set of finances. So tell me a little bit about what Woj was saying.
All right. So check it out. He's talking about there is no hard cap, right? And that's something that's kind of a win for these teams. But what there is in place is making it so that teams cannot go out and sign free agents if they're over the first tier, right? So there's a second tier and so on and so forth. So essentially, is these teams that are going to be in the second tier, they can't go out and sign free agents. They can't go out and get mid-level exceptions. They can't do all this other stuff. They're basically handicapped with the players they currently have, right? You've got to decide what players you want. They're saying that this is designed to eliminate 3 stars on a team unless you develop those stars. Again, making what? The draft more valuable yet again. Because if a team can't have 3 stars on their team, they have 2 stars and they're already bumping up against that max level contract money, right? They're going to have a hard time having a competitive season if they can't get a good bench to round it off. And they have to have like G League guys coming in and playing all the time. This is going to protect the Oklahoma City Thunder and teams that have drafted properly. All right. And that's as simple as that can be. Teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder will be able to have multiple max contracts. Like we'll be able to sign Shafe to max contract. You know, whoever else on this team that has earned a max contract will get a max contract. And I think that's the most powerful thing. Yes, some of these guys are going to have to take a deal to come back on this team, but that will be something that same works out in the future. But I get excited because if you look at what Woj is saying, he's reiterating what we've been saying all along. The value in the draft is going to be immense because you cannot build a team anymore, right, Mark? With just adding players in the offseason and saying we're going to get LeBron and this player and that player and this player and this player. You can't do that anymore. You can if you're building with one superstar and everybody else that you're building around them is like mid-level guys. But this new CBA, bro, is going to really fuck with teams that like the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, the Clippers that are already up on that max level. And they're going to be like, we need to trade. We got to get this money down because we won't be able to build a team unless we get this money down. And they're going to be sending out their first round draft picks for almost nothing so that people will take back money.
So Woj was saying, like, if you end up with a couple of top level players, you're going to end up not being able to pay people in the middle very well.
Exactly.
Right.
If you get 2 top guys, you're gonna have like 2 mid-level exemption or 2 mid-level guys, maybe 3, and then it's all gonna be just whatever afterwards. I mean, and think about that. Like guys like, we talked a lot about what's his name from Memphis a lot recently. Dylan Brooks, right? You think about Dylan Brooks and you're saying, well, why did Memphis do this? Well, again, they're hitting up on that max contract money as well. Like Dylan Brooks is just people can say this or that about him right now, but Memphis doesn't want any part of it because they need to be able to be active in the free agent market. And if they sign Dylan Brooks, they're not going to be able to be active in the free agent market. Again,
boom.
Teams like that are going to look at it and say like anybody that has a little bit of cap space right now, like the Thunder who have like $30 million in cap space, a team that has $15 million contract that needs to get under that line, right? They'll be like, listen, I know we have pick 15 this year, right? Give us a top 20 protected pick in 2027 or something like that, whatever, But we want to be able to trade you this draft pick. essentially, because we can't have it right now.
Right.
You
So,
know?
but that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is where I'm wondering like, yes, we're talking about and Woj specifically is talking about like future team building, but how many teams are going to suddenly feel like they need to make a change to get under the tax or under the second apron?
50% of the league.
Really? So
50 fucking percent, bro. That's why
so
he's saying it's going to be so fucking active.
okay, so it's gonna be like he said, the most active trade season in NBA history, and a lot of people are gonna be incentivized to drive down their expenses, and we have cap
Absolutely.
space, and we have
And
cap space.
especially like a team like the Kings,
Okay,
you know, that are going to have to be putting out max contracts here soon. You know, like they're going to want to drive their price down because the second that they bump up against that line, they have to be competing for a championship. And that's what a lot of teams aren't going to necessarily be able to do. Like the Golden State Warriors after this year, if they don't clean their house, they don't get a bunch of those contracts away.
right.
Like I mean, they're fucked, and they all know it too.
So there's a premium on cap space. People are gonna be moving off of contracts, moving out of the various ways that they built the team previously or teams previously, team contenders, anybody who's a pretender is going to be like, hey, we gotta stop paying contender money for that. And so
Pretender versus contender, baby.
let's think about this. Like over the years, there's been different moments like this where teams are like willing to trade away a bad contract for and give up a first round pick. Case in
Yes.
point, Al Horford, which turned out being a really good contract at the end and something we could get to the Celtics and be favorable for us.
Sure.
So my theory is there going to be a chance to do that again? That's my question. Like because those are really that's a Sam Presti specialty, which is we'll take a player that eventually, if we pay for a couple of years, like then it will become a valuable contract as an expiring contract, right?
Sure.
And then on top of that, you'll give us a pick or two. Go in and throw in a player that's a project, long term, development, and we get a really good locker room presence like a George Hill or an Al Horford.
Sure.
Those types of deals actually get me more excited than the idea of going and getting like a free agent. Let's
Yeah.
get a way to add like a couple of players to the mix who can add professional habits and be long-term competitors who have good talent.
And you look at I'm looking at a number of different teams that are going to be shedding contracts that are valuable players. We have a fan of ours, or a fan of the Thunder, that always talks to us as a huge Bobby Portis fan. Like these are the guys that are at 15 to 18 to 20 million dollars that are going to be available for next to nothing. If not, we're taking a draft pick back to take their contract. Sam knows this. Sam isn't a dummy right now. He recognizes that's why we have $30 million in cap space this next year. Like he knows that if he plays his cards right, he can either push a draft pick out into 2000 whatever he wants, 2045. I mean, you can't obviously put a draft pick that far out, but Sam could do whatever he wants as far as he wants to put that draft pick out,
As long as they'll let him.
as long as he lets them. And then he adds another draft pick to this coming year. I mean, that's the thing about what Sam does, is that he will make things work if it benefits him. And to a team that's going to try to be competing for a championship that says we need to get under this cap so we can pick up a player like this blank, like Dylan Brooks, right? In order for us to be able to pick up Dylan Brooks, we need to be able to send a first round, maybe 2 first rounds away, so the team will pick up, the money. Because this is the last year that teams are going to be able to do that. Because next year, when all of a sudden the draft picks are like, they're more valuable than free agents, people are going to be like, wait a second here, I don't want to send my draft picks out for the future now. We've consistently said that this is going to be a good year for accumulating draft picks because of the new CBA. After that, it's just going to be hard as shit to get any picks. And if Sam can pick up 2 first round draft picks, one now, one for, future protected, bro, I mean, I'm telling you guys, like, this is what Sam's been waiting for a very long time. And the new CBA has just been more beneficial for developing players, inside your organization, and then allowing players to stay there without getting kicked in the nuts consistently for doing so.
That's what really fires me up right here. And just like the opportunity for this team to improve without going out and trying to make anything happen, right? If teams are like dialing up Sam and saying like, listen, man,
They will.
we we see you have cap space. We need to get off of this deal so we can get better, right? And they're just like coming to him, and they're bidding for his cap space.
You need to
Then
take
there's
that.
an
Is that
opportunity.
Faith?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on this.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got you then.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, yeah. But you're absolutely right. And I want to go back to Carson. You just put this up there. Do you think Bobby Portis would get on a cheap deal? Like, listen, all these guys that have gotten these like what I call $80 million contracts, the with the old $80 million contracts, old money, they're going to be, how do I put this, less profitable, right, guys? Um, Less desirable, right? Guys like Lou Dort that are under 25 that have these contracts are going to be okay. But guys that are pushing up to 32 years old, they're not going to be handing out these contracts anymore. Especially, Bobby Portis is getting older. You're looking at some of these other guys are getting older, and I think they're going to shrink those mid-level contracts out. I think that that's the only way for some of these teams to be able to compete for the long in the future. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, if the Oklahoma City Thunder continue to um, take care of their money, making sure that they pay the players that deserve it properly, and taking on money when they have open cap space to add picks, is because that is going to probably be one of the only ways to add picks in the future is by taking on money. I mean, I just don't understand how much the CBA really changes things right now. And I think the more that I look into it and I start hearing the professionals, the guys that are consistently reading it, as they're starting to throw out these little hints of it, I get excited because it goes hand in hand with what Sam Presti has been drafting like. It goes hand in hand with what Sam Presti has been, his vision for developing players. It goes hand in hand with that whole idea that the G League should be more valuable than a Major League Baseball farm system. And he understands these things, and that's why he's put so much energy and so much money and so much effort into the G League and developing this going back and forth flow. Now they've added a third spot, so added one spot, so added a third spot for two-way players, allowing the Oklahoma City Thunder to get guys that are like, you know what, 34 years old, you know what I'm saying? And that aren't necessarily ready to play a full season. This is going to allow them to sign them on a two-way contract, allowing them to play 50 something games in the season and rehab their careers if they need to. So there's going to be a lot of different ways that we can utilize these two-way contracts, that we can utilize for veterans, for rookies, I mean, it's insane. So if you look at Sam Presti and you take a step back and you say, what will he be able to do this offseason? Is I think if I'm Sam Presti, I'm not making a move in the open market right now, the free agent market. I'm not touching it because whatever I'm going to want or need is going to be available in the trade market 3 or 4 times more valuable. Taking on a draft pick or 2 picks or whatever to be able to bring that player in. So if I'm Sam, I'm saying I'm being patient, I'm not moving, and I'm going to let another team come to me and say, I need this pick, and I'm willing, or I don't need this pick, I need this player gone, and I'm willing to pay you 1, 2, 3, 4 picks, whatever the thing is, because that is the way we're going to be able to dictate what Sam is able to do. Yeah. So, anyways, while Mark is fixing his mic right there, uh,
My
I
bad. I
just
forgot to unmute it. There you
there
go.
you go. You got to unmute it. There you go.
All right. Anyway, bro, you talked the whole goddamn time, so your voice must be a little strained.
No, no, no. We're good. I was just going through what Sam Presti has to do to continuously keep everything together, because the reality is that everybody else is going to be grasping, being like, oh, I need this, I need this, I need to do this, I need to trade this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sam Presti, because he was recognizing where the new CBA was going and he was preparing his team for the CBA, he's going to be sitting back in the driver's seat waiting for other teams to call him up and say, I need this player gone, and here you go for taking this player.
Exactly.
That's why I'm saying he shouldn't touch the free agent market at all. He could get something 4 times more valuable in the trade market because the team's trying to dump salary cap.
Yeah, man. And that's the way to improve. It seems like. I mean, I'm extremely reactionary. I'm like, look at this player. Oh, maybe we should do this. This flashy thing is happening, so let's talk about it. But it seems like Woj just saying, like, this offseason is going to be driven by the people who are like capable of understanding how to get the most out of whatever cap space you have, because cap
That's it.
space is a premium. People are going to be trying to
Cap
teams are going to be
space
trying to, yeah,
and draft are king right now, guys.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, and dude, 10 days until the draft lottery, so that's the first time that teams start kind of like realizing maybe that they're not accomplishing their goals as far as like um, pick levels, and something like the Knicks pick last year, they expected quite a bit better, and when they didn't get better, they basically were just like, we're going to move off of the pick. So
What were they looking at, bro? Like they had J Dub sitting in their sight, and it was like they were so blind to J Dub. And imagine J Dub on the Knicks, bro.
yeah, I mean they really could use another playmaker, but you got you've got like that basically came out of the fact that the Knicks were disappointed from the lottery, and they were at that point they started looking to get off of that pick, and Presti started hearing about it, and he came in with the Godfather offer on the draft day, right? Basically, nobody else
But
is
I
offering
heard
it,
it's
right?
because Memphis had zeroed in on that pick, and he knew that if Memphis got that pick, they were going to pick J Dub.
Right.
And it was not necessarily about. It was all about Usman Jang as being that player, but it was all about protecting J Dub, making sure that the Memphis Grizzlies or another team wasn't going to jump up there and snatch him. Because at 11 spot, the Knicks were very vocal that they would take whatever to get out of it.
Right. Carson, yeah, we're 11 days actually. I got that wrong. It's the 16th coming up. So pretty crazy how fast this is going to happen, and it's going to keep everybody engaged. And then for us, it's going to help us kind of determine, like, we're already eyeing that we're probably not going to get too much movement in the draft and the lottery. So we're kind of looking at some different players. And I mean, I appreciate everybody who let me know a player to watch as they come in on the comments. I pull those guys up, and I
Yeah,
get
we're
acquainted
starting
with
to get
some
our
of them.
whiteboards out and putting down names and ranking these guys that you guys are talking about because for us, it's that 11 days when we have a live during the lottery. That will be the moment that we click into gear to recognize we have all this time to start looking at players. Right now, it's about making sure that we give good content out there. So we appreciate you, Jeremy, for listening to us because it's just, like for us, it's about we appreciate everybody. We miss the games. We miss hanging out with you guys during the games. And you guys don't always see a fun side on our podcast. So we want to make sure that we bringing a little bit of spice to the podcast now by going live, and you guys get to see us the way we are.
Yeah, man. And let's talk a little bit about like, because it's about to me now. We started out a couple days ago talking about maybe like the type of player that could help us compete.
Sure.
Now I'm looking at with what Woj said and everything. Like it's more about the type of like package, right? And there will be a player in that package that maybe a Mike Muscala, maybe Al Horford, George Hill, maybe a Chris Paul, but that's probably a little bit on the high end. But just like a player that teams are overpaying, they feel like, and they're on a long contract. So let's talk about what type of player like we could look to get. I think personally, a player kind of like Sarge, Moose,
Hmm.
or Al Horford, kind of like a big, a forward, that can shoot the ball from the perimeter.
Sure.
That would be kind of would kind of think that we could maybe pick up another one of those guys, and maybe two guys like that could actually help bolster the locker room and give Chet another dynamic of learning the NBA from a different skill set. What do you think?
I think if I'm the Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm whittling it down and I'm bringing it down to 3 or 4 players if they're available. On my list would be towards the top would be DeAndre Ayton from the Suns because I don't think that is a fit for them, and I think that you can keep Chris Paul or DeAndre Ayton, and I think Chris Paul brings more to the team than DeAndre at this point. I think you could get DeAndre for dirt cheap, and I think that if you kept him for even 6 months, you could turn around and trade him for an incredibly high price. Then I'm thinking players as far as you know other impactful players at that like, see, that's the thing. We're good in the guards. We'll draft the guards. We'll develop the guards. So if we're going to go out there and get a free agent, or not even a free agent, a player that we bring in, I want to see a center. I want to see a big body forward that can play that center position to take the contact off of get or Chet and Poku.
Hmm.
Like, I want Poku and Chet to be able to play a full season without getting seriously hurt because they're being fully immersed into that center position. So that's why I say, if I'm Sam Presti, I'm going to the draft for guards, and if a big man is laying on my plate, essentially, here you go, we'll take nothing for him, just take him, because otherwise we can't keep our team together.
That's
In
gonna
that
happen.
situation, we could pick up anybody who is on a team that is disgruntled, and I mean, that's like one of 15 guys that are really fucking good in the NBA.
It's gonna happen. There are always players that were really, really good. They get a big contract. The team's moving in a different direction, and you can basically get an incredible locker room presence, and you're gonna overpay them based on the productivity. But you do that for a year or two, and then they're an expiring contract, and it's really valuable again. And then you can trade it on that flip side of it too. I want to jump to what ZK was saying. Um, First of all, shout out to him because he's in personal finance class and he's checking out the video. So
Nice, dude.
we owe him a shout out there. But he wants to know if we think Chet has a chance to win the Rookie of the Year. And I think because we're such big Thunder homers, it's easy for us to like say yes. We think that he has a
He'll
maybe
be in the
even an
top five
advantage.
all year. He'll be in the top five voting all year, or
He,
rookie of the year, Kia.
right. We've seen players get it after sitting out a year, an injury year, their rookie year.
Blake
Yeah,
Griffin, right?
I think he got it.
After his out his year.
I think
Anyways, it
Did
happens.
Zion win it? I think Zion won it.
Yeah.
And like you see these types of things happen, and you're kind of like, okay, that could be an advantage for a player to understand the 82 game schedule. Can he stay healthy? That would be the biggest question. And then is there going to be somebody that comes in and plays like all world level, like Tim Duncan rookie year? Those are the questions, but I think Chet could reasonably put up Paulo type numbers for this season.
Well,
That
I think
might be a little bit high in the scoring, but other than that, I think we're right
I
there.
I want to throw this out here with Chet. I don't think we're going to have this great expectation that he's going to be putting up, above 20 points every game. I want everybody to know that. Like, this rookie season, I feel like if Chet goes out there and averages 13 points a game, that's a fucking huge win. Okay? Because to me, Chet's positivity on the team is different because he's a defender. Like, his changing how teams will drive to the hole, how teams will play on offense is going to be the most valuable piece that Chet brings to the table. The offensive rebounds, the defensive rebounds, like all these things that we struggled this last year in, or I felt like we struggled this last year in, Chet's going to bring to the table. Now, because of that, in the way that the Oklahoma City Thunder will be looked at and saying, look at how many games Chet and the Thunder have winning. Yes, they were able to play the play-in game last year, but now with Chet, they've won this many more games. And then the fact that we have the upside with Chet probably averaging, 3 to 5 blocks a game. Like, I really think that Chet is going to bring something like that to the table that people are going to stop and be like, see, that's different. Like, I think Chet will have a double double with, or triple double with block shots and rebounds and points. You know what I'm saying? Like, Chet is going to do things that people haven't done on defense since David Robinson, or I say David Robinson as a big man because he's putting up like quadruple doubles and shit like that. So, like, those are the type of levels that I see Chet eventually getting to. But it's about being patient with him and making sure that he gets the right development. And I love the fact that we didn't rush him back this year, even though he wanted to come back. Like, I love the fact that we didn't rush him back.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, there is a chance, like Carson's saying, that we get multiple players who are in the running for Rookie of the Year, right? Because we saw it with J
Multiple.
Dub this year, but I don't know. Coming into this, I wasn't sure that we could have Chet and J Dub in the running for Rookie of the Year, and I'm
Yeah.
not really sure if we would have. Like, Chet might have taken up all J Dub's like shine. Like that kind of happened in the summer league. Um, I got really hyped about J Dub in the summer league. Or some other people did too, but a lot of people had trouble noticing J Dub, even though he played really really well. Um, so that could have been a problem. That might be something that happens coming up for our new pick, but in the end, I'm hoping for somebody who can contribute and at least be somewhat in the conversation. But that's really unbelievable to expect for that to consistently happen when you're drafting outside the top 10. So who knows? Could be a lot of fun. It's a fun time of year with this lottery coming up, with all these things happening. But one thing that makes it really unusual is us at the same time trying to decipher the new CBA. And
Bro, it's exciting.
7 years of peace in the labor front is always good news. But how will it
7
change?
years.
How will it change the way teams are being built? And
Bro, it's gonna change everything, man.
yeah,
I mean, guys, I cannot say this enough. When we started getting leaks about what the CBA was going to be doing and looking like, it's like Sam Presti was sitting down with all the GMs and assistant GMs that are connected to him in the league and saying, guys, this benefits us if it goes like this. It benefits us if it goes like this, right? Repeating that over and over and over again, because when they all came to the agreement of this contract, the CBA, like I'm looking at it, and the more I'm hearing and seeing, it's like, yeah, like this benefits the Oklahoma City Thunder, not just a little bit, not just right now, but for the next 7 years down the road, because that's where our draft picks align. That's where these players' contracts align. And then after that, it's going to be a flip side, and they're going to open up the floodgates of money, allowing teams and players to keep them after 7 years. So what does that mean? That means it benefits yes again, because it's happened before in the NBA and Major League Baseball and NFL and NHL. The CBAs and the new contracts, they come in and it goes one way, and it's like it allows these teams to build. And they're like, oh shit, we didn't want that. We didn't want a small market dominating the NBA, so let's go ahead and flip that. Make it so that people can keep the money. People can do this. People can do that. Boom. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder will be able to stay a dynasty that way. And that's why it's important to say, like, Sam Presti has done so much for this Oklahoma City Thunder team just by being there and helping with the contract negotiations, because now there's no doubt in my mind that the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be looked at as one of the greater organizations of the next decade, if not the greatest organization in the next decade.
well, I mean, it sounds like we get carried away when we talk like that. But one of the things that it's important
Carried
to
away?
remember.
Come on.
Well, I mean,
How many more teams are set up for the next decade better than us?
I know what you mean, but like one of the things that helps when we talk about a little bit what we saw previously, right? Like I remember Sam Presti talking about going into that meeting with Kevin Durant, and one of the things that they were able to show Durant, which was like the Thunder had the fourth winningest, um, best winning percentage. I don't know.
True.
I'm saying it all wrong. Of any
You're
team in
good.
sports since the team had moved to Oklahoma. We're talking about 8 years at that point. I think we'd basically, like, I think the Packers might have been the only team that had a better winning percentage or something like that. But maybe, yeah, I said fourth, so maybe there's a couple other teams. But we've seen this team put up incredible, like, times where they were winning ridiculous amounts of games and constantly making it to the Western Conference Finals. So we know what that looks like. And looking at how we have it set up now, it does seem like we're set up better for that than we were previously. Now, everybody will go back to like, well, we in a row, and I understand that like that's going to be whatever, but in the
But
end, we
how many?
traded one of those guys away so that we had future assets. We don't need to do that going forward, and then we ended up because we were short staff. Basically, we're injury away from missing out on a lot of these guys' prime. So can Sam Presti build something that's going to be built to avoid those types of things?
Man, think about this. It took 10 years for us to say that we had 3 MVPs on one team at one time. 10 or 11 years. All right. Think about that. Are you telling me over the next 10 or 11 years that we're not going to have at least 3 of these guys not mentioned in the MVPs in the top 5? I'm talking J Dub. I'm talking Shea. I'm talking Chet. I'm talking Josh Giddey. I'm telling you guys, like that's what we're going to be able to see. Like I understand that people are like, oh, Josh Giddey will never be an MVP caliber. That's where I disagree because he's shown that he has that special gear, and if he has having a special season, I'm telling you guys, he's going to put up MVP numbers that season. Um, you know, uh, I think of players like Kobe that never really. I mean, he won it, but he should have won multiple, right?
Yeah, I think he
Derek
won one.
Jeter, the captain for the New York Yankees. Like I look at these guys that like are the difference maker, but never really win a champion or MVP. And to me, it's about being in the conversation, MVP caliber player. And I'm telling you guys, we have at least three of those guys on this team. And like Mark said, the difference is that we're not going to trade away one of them to get more assets. We're just not. I mean, maybe in the down the future when one of them is getting old, that we might look at and say, okay, now we're going to probably trade him. But that's further down the road when he's getting old. Like right now, we've got the assets, and I'm telling you, I'm willing to bet a nut that we have three future MVP caliber players on this team.
For sure, dude. What's up, Corey? Yeah, I mean, Dave, you're right, man. And we've talked about this a lot. Like, we feel like Sam Presti, got a glimpse of the promised land. He realized he didn't have what it took. He needed to rebuild, reset, get ready, and he understood when you get to that mountaintop and you're climbing it and you're about to reach it, you need to have those assets stored up from the beginning, not scramble to try to put them together. Some teams figure it out, they can win a championship, and then they mortgage the future. There are two teams right now that just fired their head coach that I feel like made personnel mistakes at different points, but they won championships, so people didn't really question it. But
Three
Toronto
of the last four.
and Milwaukee, those two teams, when I look at them, I'm like, they just fired their head coach. Usually, when teams fire a championship winning head coach, it's because they're one step away from firing the general manager. And general manager's like, well, we might as well get rid of the coach. That way, it shows that I'm serious. Um, I don't think there's any other way to point it than I think there were some issues with personnel decisions that made these teams not perform to the level that their expectations were, and
Absolutely.
now the coach is scapegoated, and both of those guys have rings, so they're going to be able to get jobs.
There's Who's the other one? There's a third one that just lost his job too. That was a championship caliber nurse.
Yeah, Budenhauser and I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, there's another one. But the four last winning coaches are as Kerr's in that as well. So not that he's gonna get fired, but crazy man. You're right.
Yeah, and that's
Frank Vogel. Thank you. Appreciate that, Moani.
there you go. So it's just this is how it's going right now, right? And if that's what happens, like sometimes, like and I don't want to get too carried away because this is where I get really preachy, but like Bill Simmons made a career of trashing Sam Presti, saying if you ever get to the point where you can go all in for a championship, you must do it. And he kept saying that he made the biggest mistake ever not going all in on a championship. And I understand that, but Sam Presti was always like, we have to play the long game. We can't mortgage our future for a quick rush right now. If we do that, then we're going to end up being a city that loses their team. Like um, a lot of these, you can only do that if you're a big market team. And even big market teams have suffered from making poor decisions when doing those types of things. So for me, when I look at it, I think this is about longevity. This is about us looking at it and saying, okay, yeah, it's easy for pundits to recognize the assets that the Thunder have. Like, oh yeah, these assets are going to last 10 years or more. Okay, great. Now the question, are those players going to be capable of performing in a way that those assets can put us over the top? Some people would say, no, you only get that type of jackpot once in your life. You're never going to get three MVPs again, yada yada yada. But like you said, we like to disagree with that and say we're in the foundational era of this team. Knowing that we have those assets gives us the confidence that we can fall in love with the guys that are contributing to winning right now.
And it's important to sit back and look at each of the players and recognize the developmental stage that Shea's taken, the steps that he's taken, and then sit back and say, okay, not I don't ever want to compare these players, these rookies and the second year players and stuff like that. but recognizing what the second step is, Ben, for all these players, and then the third step, which is that third year. And then we can all of a sudden start recognizing what we're going to expect from Giddy this next year, right? We can start expecting what we're going to expect from J-Dub this next year. And then we can expect to see the rise from Shea of how much better he will be, just inevitably. So if we keep on going this route, and when people are saying that, oh, well, we don't know how good Chet's going to be, we don't know how good this is, that team's going to be. Listen, guys, all right? I'm telling you, with Chet on this court, we're going to be better than anybody thinks that we are. Not just by a little bit, by a lot. And it's going to be embarrassing for teams to look at it and say, how is a young team this dominant right now? It's going to be embarrassing because everybody's going to stop and take a second to be able to not just appreciate. And we've been hearing all these announcers to sit back and talk like, look at all these young guys that have great mentalities, they da da da. Like we listen to all the other guys, all the other teams, announcers, and now it's like what it's expected from the Oklahoma City Thunder to get quality players, right? And it's going to go from that to all of a sudden everybody's going to be like, oh shit, fuck these guys, fuck them. Because they're going to hate us because we're going to be so fucking good. And there's going to be nobody that's going to be able to play with us on a consistent basis because it's going to be like, shit, that just sucks. Like when there's super teams that have been drafted versus super teams that have been put together, it's obvious. And this team is a super team that's been drafted. And all we need to do is just take time. And it's going to be, unbelievable. Like we've got defensive player of the years. We've got defensive all teams on this team. We've got all NBA teams on this team. We got 3 or 4 guys that I would say consider maybe 5 guys on this team that are going to be all NBA teams. Like there is so much talent on this team that nobody really knows how good this team is going to be. And everybody's just loving what we're doing right now until we get to that point where they just realize that there's no stopping us. And how are we going to pull this team together? How are we going to pull them apart? How are we going to make them not this good? And that's all we'll be hearing about this team.
And bro, we saw it. We saw it intentionally happen in a way that tore apart the Thunder early on. And there were two teams, but 2 specific players that really stopped the Thunder from winning championships, or at least one time from winning a championship and another time from getting back. It was LeBron and Steph. Though Clay was a big part of that, but like those 2
Draymond.
guys. Yeah, but those 2 guys, LeBron and Steph, are now battling it out in the Western Conference playoffs. And you're seeing, like, these guys are special. And when you think about it, like, there was a phase, like, it was the Spurs winning championships, and then, the Lakers got some there, the Mavericks got one there, and then the Thunder come in, and they're about to get one, but this super team out of Miami manages to hold them off. And then the super team out of Golden State holds them off. So when I look at it, like a lot of people look at those 2 teams and they think, oh, those are 2 of the greatest players, 2 of the greatest teams, yada, 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 whatever. But when I look at it, I think it was this close where we could have knocked them off.
24 years old. 24-year-old seasons complete with Durant and Shea. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you saying that you want to go forward from this point on? Shea or Durant at 24?
Look,
You've seen them both. You've studied them both at 24 in depth.
This is a question that I haven't thought too much about, but like when you talk around Thunder players about this, like a lot of people started to really care about basketball watching Kevin Durant. And so they came away with like this idea of like the perfect basketball player was the type of player that you might build on like NBA 2K or something like. And Durant was like a 7-foot shooter, and they were like, this is the perfect player, and he's our favorite player. So they're still hurt about Durant, and they're not wanting to embrace Shea. But I'll make the case for Shea because I do think that like he's gonna be a player that when you look back and you say like, yeah, that's more of the type of player you want on your team. And it's because like a player like Kevin Durant, like going back to high school days, going back to AAU, college, he was always a mercenary. And we were able to keep him in Oklahoma as long as we were able to pay him the most. As soon as somebody else was able to offer him a similar type deal, he's a mercenary. Mercenaries, that's what they do, right? They go where they can get paid, and they go where they think they can win. And I feel like Shea is comparable from a scoring perspective. Okay, KD had more physical talents, and you could be like, well, you can't guard KD. Whereas Shea, it's like hard to guard him. You need a team to throw at him, but it's different. But they've been able to get to 30 plus points per game, different ways. So then you have to say, what about the person? You know what I mean? Like Tanner is saying, KD, like we always hoped that he could be like a defender, like a 4 level, be able to patrol the paint, get some blocks. He had the physical tools, but Shea's already proven to be a better defender than him. So that's, I mean, all these things have to be taken into account. I mean, so I feel strongly that Shea is a far better player to to build your team around.
I would not only echo it, I would just be like, listen, Kevin Durant was a phenomenal player, but he demanded the ball at 24. Even I would say he touched the ball 60% of through the offense, touching it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he wasn't able to at 24. I'm sure he got close to 30. I think he did put up 30 points, around 24 points per game. My point is that Shea put 31.4, 31.5 points a game up this last year at 24 years old. He averaged a shit ton of assists. He averaged rebounds. Like, yes, Durant did all these other things too, but I look at the way that Shea runs the team, right? And our offense that's designed around space and cutting and backdoor cuts and driving hard to the bucket, right? And the way that Kevin Durant's is all about spacing and shooting and getting to that spot and pulling up, that works on a lot of teams. And it's great to see. I like that. But when you're talking about this Oklahoma City Thunder team and for the future of the NBA, I think Shea fits that mold perfectly of what this future NBA team's going to look like. When I say 6'6", 7-foot wingspan, like his defense is on point, his offense is on point. He shares the ball. He doesn't demand to touch the ball as many times through the course of the game. This is why I believe when you're looking back, you'll say, I believe that Sam Presti be known better or known more for the trade that Paul George was done than drafting KD that brought back Shea. And I think when it's all said and done, that's what Sam Presti's legend will be built off of, is Shea and not KD.
Yeah, we love to talk about the legend of Sam Presti, like the way things changed, the way that he, I think, had to kind of tear down his idea of what it meant to build a contender. You look at the early versions of the Thunder, it was built in this mold of the old Spurs games, which, or Spurs teams where you had, dedicated defenders.
Yeah.
You had people who were competing to be really good in their role, but their roles were limited, and they needed to understand that. Whereas this team is more like, let the players develop into who they are. And,
exactly, dude.
And we always heard like the preaching, like we want to see the ball move from side to side. We want to see ball movement, player movement. Those are the things we always heard from Coach Donovan and Coach Brooks, and we heard it from Sam Presti in the press conferences, and then we would never see it. Now we see it, and having somebody has as much gravitational force as Shea does, be able to put up 30 points a game while at the same time having the ball move freely is far more preferable than ISO heavy, you go get yours and I'll go get mine.
How many times did he put up 30 points a game and shoot under 20 shots? I mean, that's the most impressive thing about what Shea does, is that he gets to the foul line, eliminating the shot, that he had just taken, allowing him to essentially get 5 free buckets a game, right? By just going to the foul line without ever taking a shot. And it's just free throws. So when he does this, right, it opens up those 5 shots, right? Now, next time down the court, one of those other guys get it, because it eliminates also the next 7 or 8 seconds, right, guys? You guys getting it? It takes the 7 or 8 seconds that are on the shot clock still. It takes those off immediately, which gives the Oklahoma City Thunder another possession quicker. And that's why when we come down sometimes, we take a shot really fucking fast. It's because it's a fucking free shot. Like people are like, oh, that was a bad shot. No, it wasn't. Because if we score that, We just scored 9 points in a matter of 45 seconds, and those things matter. It's the free shots that we're getting when Shea goes to the hole. So Shea this year, number one thing that he needs to do and work with for the team is how to get to the free throw line and get there successfully. That's with Josh and that's with J-Dub. Because if these guys can all average 7 to 10 free throws a game, and we're picking up, 33 three throws a game and averaging something around there, like, I mean, like, that's just next level. And the way that we drive to the hole, there's no way that we won't be able to accomplish that. It's only 5 fouls going to the hole each time for these guys. So, like, I get it. It's 15 fouls for, total Shea, Giddy, and J-Dub. But the reality is that that's how we are going to take big guys out of the game and make them less effective. And if we continue this downhill attack, it doesn't matter who's in the game. Eventually, we're going to get what we want. And what is that? The small ball game. Because the second they go small ball with us, we're long and lanky. We got stinking huge arms that make it impossible to shoot over. And that's what happens in these quarters, that all of a sudden you're like, how did the Thunder score 45 points and the team only scored 20? It happened a lot this year. It's because we got everybody else in foul trouble, and then they went and competed against us at that level. And what happened? We shut them down because they couldn't shoot over us. They couldn't get around us. They couldn't get to the bucket. They couldn't get a legitimate shot up on our defense. It stifled them. And we kept on scoring and kept on scoring every single time down court because they had nobody there to stop us. It's beautiful, guys. The way that we attack the weakest link in the defense every single time is a credit to Coach D and the coaching staff to get these guys ready every game.
I heard Preston talking a little bit about, right now he's reading some books about producers, music producers. People who, I think the way he sees it is maybe like that's kind of his role, right? His role here is to not necessarily create the music. It's not necessarily to, be a part of like any element of it other than what happens when I add this person to the mix. Does it amplify the sound? Does it take away from the sound? And sometimes your job as a producer is to be a bouncer. You know what I mean? Like, no,
Yeah.
you can't come in here. We're making, we're working on an album. Sometimes as a producer, you got to like get people back to doing the right thing. But I think it tells a lot when you get to hear him talk about the books he's reading and maybe the role he sees himself in. So I feel like that's a great place for us to leave it right now. Is Sam Presti, the producer, is getting ready for probably his greatest hit.
Yeah, guys. And just remember, guys, tell somebody to fuck off. Tell somebody you love them.